Hi everybody, welcome to another video. This week's episode is part of the Vintage Revival Challenge hosted by Crystal over at The Crafty Critch. She was so kind to invite me to co-host this challenge and I accepted it. The idea is to restore a piece of vintage furniture, updating it for a modern aesthetic. I'll leave a link to the playlist below so you can watch wonderful YouTubers do magic with their pieces. Well, this piece isn't really vintage and it's not made of real wood. So let's give it an antique look using real wood. Milo wants to say hello to all of you. I got this chest of drawers from Facebook Marketplace for $5. It is not in a really good condition, and it must have been repaired many times with nails and screws. These pieces aren't really valuable, but people buy them because they are so affordable. I'll reinforce the drawers as much as I can. As you see, I'm using glue and screws. I'm countersinking them because they'll be invisible afterwards. I'll start scuff sanding everything, especially all those parts where the particle board has bubbles. After sanding, I'll remove all the dust using a wet rag. Here you can see that this piece doesn't have a base. I'll give it a new wood base. I'll have to cut the excess of particle board for my new base not to be out of proportion. I reinforced the base using these 1x1s and I joined them using pocket holes. After measuring everything well, it was time to cut the new wood. Of course, the drawers will not have those pulls. Then it was time for Bondo. This is a two-part epoxy putty that is really heavy duty. The next day, it is time to sand the Bondo smooth. I sprayed some white acrylic enamel on the exposed particle board and let it dry before painting it. Here, I am attaching the new wood top. I used wood glue and screws. I used wood filler to seal the gaps and conceal some imperfections of the wood. I used some scrap pieces I had lying around. I used a water-based stain called Vintage Chestnut. I guess it looks really well. Now for the fun part. I will sell this piece for very little money, or I'll just give it to somebody. I just want to experiment with new techniques. You know, I love animals, and I know that most people love animals too. In this case, I'm going to use horses. I printed this image in 4 pages, and I'm going to use it to decoupage the drawers. This is the first time that I will decoupage using printed pages. I chose horses because they have been long-time companions of the human race. They were symbols of power and distinction in the courts of Europe. They also were vital in the development of our Western civilization. Horses are very intelligent and loyal animals, and they can understand human emotions. I'm using Mod Podge as my decoupage medium, and a little bit of plastic or saran wrap to get rid of some wrinkles. Printed paper gives you plenty of time to make adjustments. I chose this black horse because it transmitted elegance, pride, and mystery. I'm tearing up the edges so the transition between the paper and the paint is not super noticeable. I mean, you'll see it, but it will not be something square looking, if that makes sense. I'll use the same Mod Podge to seal the paper and let it dry overnight. And it was time for paint. I used a mixture of black latex and chalk paint in order to give it a more vintage look. Seeing the way Milo is always next to me, I can't stop thinking of how horses must have been companions of thousands of stories all throughout history. I am brushing in different directions so as to create texture. I'll continue with the horse motif inside of the drawers. I want this to be a sort of gallery in which you can see horses in all their glory. Well, this was no good. Thankfully, I have more paper. Don't worry about that edge, you'll see what I'll do with it. I sealed all these papers with water-based polyurethane satin finish. Well, everything else will be black. Here you see me cleaning the edges of the new base. I'll add a golden frame to the sides. To avoid bleed-throughs, I'll paint the groove in black first. I'll also add gold and black edges to the bottoms of the drawers. I'm using this vintage acrylic gold paint that goes really well with the black. The following day, I started sealing everything with polyurethane. Before sealing the horse, I want to give it some gold and copper accents. I drilled the holes for the new hardware. And it was time to reattach the bottoms of the drawers. It was also time to top coat everything. Do you remember that awful chest of drawers? Here it is now. It looks elegant and it has a vintage vibe. Don't forget to check the playlist to see all those wonderful transformations and binge watch more furniture flipping. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.